Hi, y'all, or good day if you're tuning in from the Down Under. My name is Erika Storli, and I'm a product marketing manager on the Trello team.
And I'm Caroline Himes, one of our demand gen strategists here at Atlassian. And Erika and I are both really excited to have you join us today for our digital session here at Team 23.
Exactly what Caroline said. We're both really excited to have you here. If you join the session, it's likely that you work in marketing or you work closely with the marketing team at your company. Whether you're trying to plan out a large multi-million-dollar campaign or maybe a short-term, smaller scaled campaign, we hope you find this talk useful as you create and achieve goals across your team using Atlassian's suite of tools. With that, let's get started. In today's session, we wanted to keep things straightforward and simple, sometimes the opposite of how marketing campaigns can go. And regardless, we wanted to keep our talk into 4 parts. So for the first part, we wanted to dive into the goals of why we were running this multi-million-dollar campaign for Trello, essentially why we did it. The second part, we will dive into the logistical aspects of how we planned and executed the components of the campaign using various Atlassian tools such as Jira, Confluence, Trello, and Atlas. And then third, we will go over key performance metrics that Caroline will go over and how our campaign performed. And then lastly, we'll close on sharing key learnings that we had learned from our experience using the various Atlassian tools, essentially sharing what we know now that we wish we knew then when we were first running our campaign. And with that, we'll kick it off with the first part, which is to go over essentially what we were trying to accomplish when we were running our Trello Enterprise campaign. So back in the fall of 2021, our product marketing and demand gen marketing teams were given $5 million to figure out how to get more enterprise users aware of Trello. It was the largest campaign that Trello has ever ran. And for some of our non-marketing friends, they may joke, oh, how would you spend $5 million for your multi-touch campaign? Maybe you could run a Super Bowl ad, which we know it would be a lot of fun to do that, but spoiler alert, it actually costs $7 million to run a 30-second ad for the Super Bowl. So obviously, if you're in marketing or advertising, you know that might not be the wisest place to spend all your money. But we can dream, maybe one day we can share this big screen with Rihanna in the future. But that's where it's important to step back as a greater team to explore what are the goals that you're trying to achieve when marketing your product. And there's very specific steps to go over when you're thinking about these goals.
Exactly. Thanks, Erika. So for us, when working on our Trello Enterprise campaign, we identified 2 main goals that I have here on the slide prior to starting project work and launching any programs in market. So those goals included items like shifting brand perception. So enterprise companies recognized Trello as an enterprise grade product, and then also driving demand through the delivery of high quality leads for our sales team. So these goals I'm sharing more so as an example for you, but we totally understand goals can look very different based on the outcome you're trying to achieve with your own campaign.
Exactly, Caroline. And before we dive more into our campaign that we ran for Trello, I just wanted to get a quick step back for those who may not be familiar what Trello is. So if you're surprised that it's an Atlassian product, we're not offended. We get that question all the time. Trello was actually acquired back in 2017, and it is a visual tool that empowers your team or any type of project management to help with your workflow and task tracking. All it takes are boards, lists, and cards to get a clear view of who's doing what and what needs to get done. And since Trello has been acquired, it has continued to grow and help over 2 million teams each month across the globe manage their tasks and workflows. And the reason why Trello is important to Atlassian's offering is because it aligns with the greater Atlassian mission for all of our products, which is that we believe behind every great human achievement, there is a team. And our mission is to unleash the potential in every team. Because we believe in this mission so much, we wanted to share with you all today of how our own products have helped us market Trello to our enterprise target audience. And at the same time, we hope it helps you unlock the potential in your own teams with whatever campaign or goals you're trying to reach for.
Great. So now that you have a little more context into what Trello Enterprise is, the subject of our $5 million campaign, I'd like to reiterate, for large-scale campaigns, it's really important to have a clearly defined mission statement to develop consistent campaign messaging. So this slide here shows the framework we use to develop ours. In this framework, you'll see we defined items like the current state of the business, our opportunity, anticipated challenges and roadblocks, and also value propositions. So I understand that this may seem like the hard part of the process. After all, this is the framework of your entire campaign. But really, once this was developed and we had aligned with our stakeholders, we realized the real work really began. And in a distributed workforce, while coordinating between various cross-functional stakeholders to launch over 150 plus programs in various regions and with different languages, it can be hard to wrap your head around how to even begin to execute, how to collaborate, and also how to deliver these programs on time. You may feel like your head is on fire, really. And believe me, it's totally natural to feel overwhelmed or even maybe intimidated by the mountain of work that lays ahead. But rest assured, you don't need to operate in panic mode for the entire duration of your large-scale campaign. With the right tools and infrastructure in place, you can collaborate effortlessly to not only meet your campaign goals, but to really knock them out of the park. So that's why in this next part of our presentation, we want to talk about where we did the grunt of our project work in order to launch this campaign. Our goal is to provide you with key takeaways on how to execute a large-scale campaign seamlessly and effectively so you can also crush your marketing goals. So let's get started. When working with your Tiger team, which for us included teams like product marketing, marketing operations, design, analytics, and also key stakeholders, those are the folks who may not be directly involved in the actual project work, but individuals that need to remain informed on key updates, launch timelines, and outcomes. So with all these different teams to coordinate and communicate with, we found it was really important to have a centralized work management system to work and communicate out of. So lucky for us, Atlassian has a whole suite of work management tools that were at our disposal. So I'm going to hand it back over to Erika to talk through the use case of these tools and how we were able to take advantage of them.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, I mean, as Caroline mentioned, that's a lot of people to be managing all these various projects that we were trying to run for a campaign. And the best place to start is sometimes we think if we were all under one roof in the same building physically, we would be able to get everybody in the same room and start whiteboarding using sticky notes, which is the traditional way of how we would ideate for our campaign brainstorming sessions. However, as we know, most teams nowadays are working remotely and across different time zones. So we had to get a little bit more creative and flexible with working async. So therefore, we used our own products in order to achieve the campaign we were trying to launch for Trello Enterprise. And diving into the first product that we had started off with was Confluence. Our bread and butter of where we had a lot of our discussions as a team about the content pieces that we needed to write and making sure we were aligned on positioning statements, persona sign-offs, segmentation assignments, creative briefs, roadmap timelines, content copy. And we also, in this last screenshot that I'm sharing here, had detailed weekly performance analysis using third-party tools as well as like Salesforce and Tableau to inform our key stakeholders that wanted to see how the campaign was progressing. So Confluence is definitely our go-to hub for collaboration and key comments for detailed project edits. Secondly, we used Jira as a place where we collaborated with our cross-functional stakeholders that we leaned on in order to create a lot of our campaign assets. So these teams that we leaned on for using Jira included design, marketing analytics, our web page developers, those who have a more technical skill set that were necessary in order to build out our campaign. And they use a ticket method in Jira that helped keep track of our programs. So when I had first created a service desk ticket in Jira, it was really important that each of these teams had kicked off an epic in order to strategically organize all of the requests that we were making for each of our assets. And in case you're not familiar what an epic is, it's essentially a large body of work that can be broken down into specific stories or tasks. And in each of these tasks, there are issues in Jira that encompass all the different requirements that we might have for a specific component. So we use this a lot when we were creating our ebooks, our creatives for ads in different paid channels, our videos, you name it, and we would probably create a Jira ticket request with our design teams around it. So each of these epics housed at least 100 Jira tickets, and a lot of these tickets helped us inform how we can also distribute it into different markets that we wanted to create translations for, because we were also doing regions outside of English-speaking markets, such as French and German. And this also helped us understand the statuses of each individual campaign asset and create a holistic overview of where the programs were sitting for each of these assets in order to launch for our campaign. And then third, we used our own tool that we were trying to market to our enterprise segment, which was Trello. So Trello had helped us a lot with the floating documents that we were having to create in Confluence, as well as housing a lot of the Jira tickets that we were creating for each individual asset that we needed for our campaign to go live. We rolled them all up into one place, and it was really helpful for all of our teams to get a good high-level overview of where all these floating program management pieces were at. It was essentially our mission control room. And it was a really great way for us to combine Confluence, Jira, and other third-party apps such as Google Drive, Slack, and Salesforce, because Trello has over 200 power-ups available and smart link capabilities for us to utilize. So these features came really handy, especially when we had to start collaborating cross-functionally with key stakeholders that are also vendors or agencies that we depended on heavily for copy content work. So I'm just going to do a quick little demo example of how we utilize Trello for our specific campaigns. So this is the board that we had utilized from start to finish in creating our assets in one quarter. And what you see now is a little bit more cleaned up because this campaign has been completed. But just to show as an example of one specific asset that we had created, an agency that we worked with externally, we worked with them to create a white paper piece. And in this specific card, we were able to showcase the white paper piece of checklist items that we needed to get done in order to draft up the research questions and interview specific key stakeholders and enterprise leaders that would be willing to speak to us about this white paper piece. And this helped us inform a lot of the cross-functional teams that we needed to work with when we were promoting this piece, such as our email marketing programs, our design teams that were helping us create the cover for this final white paper, as well as other teams that were helping us promote it in paid ad channels and other channels that we also wanted to showcase this white paper in. So a lot of this helped us stay organized and keep track of our workflows and tasks that we needed to make sure were managed and that we could go live by a certain date that we needed this to happen by. So because this card can hold a lot of information, including Confluence, including specific Trello cards that may be living on other boards, including different links that may live outside of Trello, it was a really good place for us to come to a source of truth in our mission control room. And once we had each individual asset have its own card along with its own checklist item and timelines that we needed to make, it was really easy for us to keep things organized to see where it was along that specific workflow. And as we can see, for example, this one was telling me that this asset was ready for me to do a final review before it was ready to go live. And now that it is actually live in market and our customers are actually interacting with it and we can review and measure the metrics later since it's launched, I can now move this to done and we can see fun confetti pop up here. And it also can tell our other key stakeholders who may be following this card that this project is now complete. So Trello has definitely been a saving grace along with our other products that helped us launch a number of assets across different markets. So we were able to create landing pages in English, French, and German. We were able to create our new Trello Enterprise YouTube video that launched in different paid channels. We also had LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter going out to different markets to showcase Trello Enterprise. And we had a number of other places that we were showcasing Trello Enterprise to for paid ads, such as the New York Times and Bloomberg. So a lot of these assets now live on that Trello board that I have just shown you as well.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. And we understand that launching the campaign can seem like the most exciting component, but if you are a data-driven person like myself, it's equally exciting to see the results of your campaign roll in. So for this next portion of the presentation, I'm going to not only talk through some high-level results, but also how we easily shared out those results to our organization, because let's face it, promoting your campaign internally and showcasing wins with your leadership team can play a big role in things like securing additional funding to keep the campaign going. Okay, so as I mentioned, tracking project updates in OKRs is especially important when communicating the success of the campaign. So in addition to the products that Erika talked through, like Confluence and Jira, we leveraged our newest tool at Atlassian called Atlas to provide ongoing weekly status updates to key leaders across marketing, product, and sales. And if your leadership team is anything like ours, then you probably know that they're looking for concise, high-level updates with the most important and impactful information. So this is where Atlas has some key advantages. Atlas has a character limit of 280, and it can also integrate into your standard communication platforms like email and Slack, just to name a couple. So as a team, we collectively set an expectation to update our Atlas ticket once a week. And once posting an update, both an email and a Slack message were sent to key stakeholders who were following the Atlas ticket. This way, they were automatically getting notified when the ticket was updated in real time. And this eliminated back and forth communication on status updates and allowed us to keep the leadership team across various departments informed with real-time updates. So Atlas really acted as a great tool for communicating how we were progressing towards our key OKRs without diving too much into the weeds or any specific part of the campaign. All right, so now to get to the exciting part, we are excited to share some high-level wins from this campaign. So to dive into it, at the end of this campaign, we built and launched over 150 programs, which included videos, webinars, ebooks, blogs, you name it. We probably launched something of that nature. And we launched these across our global market. So some of these programs were, as Erika mentioned, translated to specific languages to provide a more relevant and personalized experience. So with all of these projects in motion, I can also say we successfully closed out over 250 plus Jira tickets that allowed each team to focus on the relevant components of a program that they were being held responsible for. Also, we surpassed all of our targets that we had identified. So those targets that we were looking at included things like marketing qualified leads, sales qualified opportunities, and marketing influenced pipeline. And I can also say to this day, we are still seeing the residual effects of this campaign impact our marketing positively. And then lastly, I do want to call out this campaign did mean a lot of net new content creation. So we now have a wonderful content library with up-to-date assets that we can pull from to build new programs out of. And we're still using it today to launch more of our standard programming. With the results section out of the way, as you know, with any campaign, there's usually a whole list of key learnings that can be applied to your next campaign. So I'm a big fan of key learnings because they allow you to analyze what happened and critically think about what could have been done differently or areas for optimization. And to quickly recap for you, before we launched this campaign, we had a whole bunch of new team members. It was our first multi-million-dollar campaign, and we only had a quarter to execute and launch. After this campaign, we successfully put into market over 150 programs. We doubled our ROI and consistently surpassed our influence pipeline targets. So we can really say that we came a long way from where we first started in the fall of 2021 to February of 2022 when we launched this campaign. So when looking back on the campaign, we definitely learned a lot and experienced a ton of team growth. For us, throughout the duration of the campaign, we quickly learned that it was important to define a use case for each Atlassian tool and get alignment across our various teams and stakeholders in order to create a more streamlined process to launch programs without delay. So I'll dive into some of the more specifics now. So when it comes to launching your campaign, you'll already be a pro. First up, saving time. Given our consolidated timeline, we learned quickly it was really important for us to limit time spent making the same update across multiple documents and platforms. This meant limiting the creation of individualized pages, consolidating all group resources, and making sure each team was aware of our source of truth so there wasn't any confusion on timelines and deadlines, or the overall status of the campaign and how we were tracking towards our goals. With this consolidation exercise, we were able to really experiment with the different Trello, Confluence, and Atlas features and understand how leveraging them together allowed us to unlock more robust product capabilities for the ultimate collaboration experience. So on a similar train of thought, we do call out efficiency here on this slide as well. So with over 150 plus programs put into market, there certainly was a lot of project work to be done. And we found that we could work more efficiently by saving time spent on meetings. So when we all work to provide our updates async in these platforms in the designated project page or ticketing system, we were able to meet on a less routine basis and still accomplish the same amount of work. So with all of our partners on board, we were collectively able to cut back on around 5+ hours of meetings a week and use that time to accomplish the tasks at hand. We also, throughout the campaign, experienced a lot of segmentation changes. I think this is something common that enterprise companies experience. And it really just meant that our goals and audience changed over the course of our year-long campaign. So it was crucial for us to be flexible and adapt fast. And we learned with a strong collaboration platform that was adopted by our teams and having some known communication channels established for important comms, we learned that this setup made it really easy to mobilize the team on any fast-paced changes that impacted project work being done or things like bringing attention any operational challenges or bugs that we experienced while being in market. So also with any complex enterprise system, operational bugs are often unavoidable. And so what is important we learned is the team's ability to, one, find those bugs, but also to deploy a fix quickly to prevent any long-term impact on your final results and to communicate out to stakeholders what happened and what was the net impact. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to Erika now.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, so a lot of what Caroline had shared about what we learned from our experience running this Trello Enterprise campaign ties into three themes that we see overall in a lot of our customers at Atlassian that have shared stories with us about how they manage different workflows and tasks with their teams. So it all kind of buckets up into these three themes. First, starting off with tool proliferation. We recognize that there are many different tools that can work across your different teams and departments that they may say works best for them according to their specific use case or project that they're trying to get done. But lately, especially for admins, leadership realizes that there's a trade-off to this, especially when it comes to cost, complexity, and potential security risks as well. So our customers often speak about ways that we as Atlassians might be able to help them consolidate and standardize a lot of the work management tools that their teams depend on. And secondly, as we've talked about in our presentation, a lot of the times for our campaign, we are working with distributed teams across different countries, regions, and time zones. And distributed work is the reality of our world right now. Trends say it might be forever. And so as we live, work, and collaborate across geographies and time zones and different languages even, the digital global economy is now the reality. However, too often people think that there's an inverse relationship between distributed work and high efficiency and productivity. And they seek the latter, but in some cases that forces them to have figure out a different effort in order to get that. So lastly, that kind of drives into sometimes what we can see as a challenge for business and tech teams to find a better collaboration or sweet spot between one another. And when business teams and the more technical teams are in sync, a lot of magic can happen. But frankly, there's sometimes misalignment on goals because of the places of where these different work management tools might be living, or different teams might not have the right access to, or it's just a cost benefit analysis issue. So what we hear most often is that our customers want to do something that is easy and scalable, especially for their large enterprise teams, and coordinated in an organized, orchestrated fashion. So in order to help them better with things like prioritization and alignment across their people, teams, and resources, there's a number of tools that we utilized in our campaign that can also be helpful for your teams to think about when they're trying to run things like a multi-touch campaign for marketing. So when we use Confluence, Trello, Jira Work Management, and Atlas, a lot of these tools helped us achieve the goals that we had outlined from the beginning from our campaign to the tactical executional part, and then finally evaluating how we measured up against helping our sales team achieve their goals and the leads that they needed to generate for revenue. And so that brings us to all of these products being bundled up into a new solution called Atlassian Together. And there are a lot of Team 23 talks this year that you can check out and learn more about Atlassian Together, but we're going to give you the TLDR. And basically, it's a new single cloud subscription to the highest editions of each of the products that Caroline and I have talked about in our session today about how we utilize it for our Trello Enterprise campaign. And it's for companies that are ready to expand teamwork wall to wall. Right now, it costs only $15 per user per month. So that is a great deal for large teams and enterprises to consider, especially when they're looking to scale up their various campaigns and teams. So we hope you have a chance to check out the Atlassian Together Solutions page, linked at the bottom of this slide. But that concludes our presentation today on how to crush your multi-million-dollar campaign goals using Trello, Confluence, and Jira. And while this is the largest campaign that we've ran personally at Trello, we know there are plenty of marketing teams out there that may have ran with a larger budget or smaller budget than ours and have crushed their goals, but maybe they ran into some issues in the past of how to manage their workflows more effectively and measure their campaign effectiveness with their product. So we hope you found this talk helpful in thinking through maybe some of the more strategic and tactical ways to crush your company's marketing campaign goals, and that you can bring out the potential in your marketing teams using Atlassian's suite of tools. So thank you again for joining. And if you have any further questions, feel free to ping Caroline or I on our LinkedIn pages. Take care.
Thank you.